Good morning, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Ladybug Farm. Today we are talking about some changes I made here with our milking routine because I found out I have carpal tunnel syndrome happening in my left hand. It was rather a bit of a surprise to me. I just started milking goats within the last 6 months, and I noticed taking showers, doing dishes throughout the day, being with the children, my fingers were starting to go tingly. And it was just a little bit at first during those times, and then finally it was 3 days in a row of just solid hands being tingly, feeling asleep all the time. So I was going to make a doctor's appointment, and our first concern was hopefully it's not something with my heart. And last minute I thought I would call up a wonderful mentor of mine that mentors us through having goats and just ask her if this was something that was related to milking. And my mentor is a retired physical therapist, so I went over to her house. She did her magic and said, yep, that's carpal tunnel. Luckily I'm just in the beginning stages, so everything is still manageable and I'm working on awareness for it, but I did make some changes here to my milking routine, and I thought I could share them with you, and maybe they will help some of you. Or feel free to drop some comments if this is something that you are working with. Drop some comments to me and together we can grow and work through this. So here's my first change. This is Nemo. I did a milking video with her a while back, and you can see that her teats are super small, and she is a stubborn little girl. She was a challenge. She has been a challenge to finally get her adjusted to milking. So with Nemo, I finally got her tamed down and into a routine of milking, but I only really milk with my left hand. And what was happening was that because her teats are so small, my hands were cramping, and I would start with my left, and then I'd go to my right, and by the time I was done, my hands were they were cramped, they were hurting. So I tried this product called the Utterly Easy Milker. It is not a pulsating milker, it is a hand milker. The teats go right in here, and you use this to pump. There were a couple complications with getting it started. They sent me a new pump, and I talked with the owner of the company. Great customer service, but just for me, it did not work, and this is something that will be going back to the company. Even at best use, I could get less than 50% milk from my ladies. Less, probably more like a third from my other goats, using even the different heads for different teat sizes. But it just didn't draw enough milk, so I was still out here hand milking. And this is where my suggestion was that if I want to help my carpal tunnel, I actually stopped milking this one. She still luckily has her babies with her, so we were 5 weeks into milking by the time I discovered I had my carpal tunnel. So I returned her back to her babies, and she is with her twin boys full time. And I noticed a big change already in my hands. It's not cramped up at the end of milking every morning, so that's definitely helping. It's a bummer because I was only getting about 1.5 cups of milk from her every morning, but her milk was really creamy. It had a really high butterfat content. So when we made cheeses or when we made yogurt, it was a lot creamier when we were able to use her milk. And it was a lot better for coffee creamer too. But good thing we love her so much, even as just as a pet, and her babies are adorable. But our first change in the routine was no longer milking Nemo, because you can see, I'll pull the camera up again so you can see just in comparison how small her teats are compared to the other goats. So here's a quick size comparison for you. She's not, again, not used to being milked for the last 1.5 weeks. So she's gonna move around quite a bit, but in comparison to my hand, you can see her teats right there. And she's saying, stop this. Okay, Nemo, let's get you back. Come on, Mama. Let's take you back to your babies. Cheater. Cheater. Good mama. Good mama, go ahead. Not as much room here on the stanchion with her. So, goats are very much creatures of habit, and you can see she struggled a little bit to get up on the stanchion. And our first recommendation was to flip our stanchion around. We don't milk from both sides. My stanchion used to be facing the other way, and even for her, I only milked with my left hand, even though I'm right-handed. So the suggestion was to flip the stanchion around, start getting my right hand used to milking so that I can give my hand a break. Also, I changed the way I was sitting. I was sitting down on the ground, my knees were on the ground. Now I'm going to sit and use both hands to milk. So you can see how that works for Big Mama Oreo here. She got into some ants about a week ago, so she is fighting a whole bunch of ant bites on her udder, the poor girl. Good job, Mama. Oh, make some room for me, please. So your first little bit of milk, you always spray out in case there's any bacteria from her laying down. And now we're just using both hands. She is a lot easier to milk because her teats are a lot bigger. I can fit my whole hand in there instead of with Nemo just trying to use 2 or 3 fingers there. So this type of goat is a Nubian versus a dwarf Nigerian. She is also most certainly better at keeping those carpal tunnel syndrome symptoms from coming out in my hand. Isn't it? It's so tight. Are we getting down to the end of your feed, Nemo? While they are on the stanchion, we feed a Sunrise Farms GMO-free, soy-free. It's actually a cattle feed, but it has good enough, high enough protein content for these guys, and we mix in some kelp and some minerals as well. The second recommendation we made was to stop milking twice a day and start milking once a day. Oreo's babies would be about 5 months now, and Red's babies would be about 6. So since their amount of milk was starting to decrease twice a day, we decided to milk them just once a day. A little early for me. I do wish that I would have kept milking them twice a day, but it certainly is nice. I've noticed a reduction in my hand being tingly at the end of the day since I started milking once a day, about a week and a half ago it's been. So already that quickly I've seen a change in the amount of numbness I have in my hand from carpal tunnel syndrome. Just changing the amount of time that I milk. It's so tight. noticed that the amount of grain I feed these guys too affects how much milk I'm going to get the next day. So last night I spent the night out in the forest with them. We cleared trees, we burned a bunch of brush, so I did not give them very much grain at all. And I'm getting a lot less milk today, especially compared to yesterday. I had to go in and get more jars because I didn't bring enough out. Milking just once a day, I certainly do not get as much milk as I would have if I would have kept milking twice a day. But I get about 2/3 the amount, 3/4 the amount that I would get if I would have stayed milking twice a day. So I think that's a pretty good compromise that we made. Any more milk in there, Mama? Good Mama. I saw that back leg, Oreo. Oh. Oh. Notice how this last little bit, I'm holding the jar with my left hand, the one that has the carpal tunnel syndrome symptoms, and trying to milk out with my right hand. A lot easier to learn how to milk on my right hand with the Nubians. Thank you, Mama. Ready, Mama? Thank you. Again, they are still getting used to the stanchion being flipped around, even after a week and a half. Goats are such creatures of habit. So you can see that this goat is a lot smaller. She's a dwarf Nigerian. She's become such a good milker, even just that. Spreading her legs apart a little bit so I can come in, wipe her down. She's very timid, very shy, but she's a very good and easy milker. Now I am still learning for Red and trying to train my right hand to be able to milk. I still do milk a lot with my left hand just because it's simplest, and I can't milk from sitting with her, at least not yet. So you can see how I milk her. You can see her teat size is a lot smaller. So in the future, we will go into having just Nubians. That's what my husband wants. But right now we have a nature school and a 4-H program. We do summer camps with children, and the children just love the smaller goats. They feel more comfortable around the smaller goats, even though, in my opinion, the larger Nubians are little gentle giants. So we will keep having dwarf Nigerians for a while just because we love them so much. Earl Grey's down here trying to sneak some morning breakfast. Come on, Noah. So you can see when I milk her, it's like I'm having tea with the queen. I do have to leave my pinky up. And I'm still only milking just one at a time, trying to figure out how to get my right hand used to milking. It used to go a lot quicker when I would just use my left hand. And then I'll mix it up a little bit. That way I don't give my right hand just carpal tunnel. All the goats are lined up right behind us here, just waiting for the milking to be done so that they can get their morning breakfast. It's quite cute. I'm extremely thankful that my mentor for goats was able to share this medical knowledge with me, save me a few doctor's appointments, because it's definitely not something I need any sort of pain medication prescription for. I know carpal tunnel can really, really hurt a lot of people, and luckily mine is just tingling right now. It's not at a stage where it's hurting. So until I get to the point, hopefully I never do, but until I get to the point where I start dropping things, I think I'm gonna wait to hold off to officially go to the doctors. We are nearing the end. Not so much in there. Remember I said I didn't give them that much grain last night because we spent the night out in the forest clearing brush and cutting down trees. So they ate a lot of leaves last night instead of grain. Hence a little bit less milk this morning. I brought out Bull to say goodbye. This is Nemo's little man. So I've learned that awareness is key for my carpal tunnel syndrome. Oh, hi. And I notice even after just that little bit of milking, my hands are going tingly. But I think by the time I give it a break and give it a rest, hopefully it'll just be very minimal the amount of time that happens today. I also learned, just being aware throughout my day, how am I using or overusing my left hand versus my right hand. I was out weeding the other night for a few hours, and I realized that I'm always holding down on my right hand, hey buddy, and weeding with my left hand, and for the rest of the night my hand was tingly again. So it's not just milking, it's how I perform actions throughout the rest of the day as well. And I started wearing a brace at nighttime just to keep my hand and keep my wrist in one location, because I also realized that at nighttime when I sleep, I curl up a lot and I bring my hands in, and that was also making symptoms of the carpal tunnel worse. So that hand brace was something that most certainly helped me. So it's just the beginning part of this journey. I hope that we can help ease those symptoms and make it better, but these goats are something I definitely don't want to get rid of. We love this journey so far. I hope this helped you, and may you have a beautiful day ahead.